Okay. Hi. Come on in. There are a couple seats over there if you'd like to join the circle. All right. So we're live streaming on YouTube. Okay, these two seats I think are for their family, but there are two seats over there. It's really nice to see you guys. This meeting is being live streamed, just in case anyone wants to know. Hi. Okay. Everyone's very excited to see each other, but we're going to start the service. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I don't know if folks at home can see this. Shaya, is it possible to show them a wide shot so they can see that we're sitting in a circle tonight? Yeah, switch to the black camera. Oh, there you go. There we are. Look at that. And so, you know, we originally got these chairs to be movable specifically so that we could do something like this. And we didn't do it for a long time because the church was here and it was too much work for the custodian. But since we don't have a church right now, it was time to take advantage of this. So in honor of our circle, we're going to begin with Circle Round for Freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle round the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle round the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle round the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole.
We are so fortunate to have these wonderful, talented musicians, Jory, Morris, and Rena, special guests tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. So Missy Sabar is going to light our Shabbat candles, which are in the middle of our circle, and they're on page 120 and on 2 in the thinner books.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you, Missy. Beautiful. And Morris is going to lead us in the Kiddush, which is on page 123 and 5. 5 is in the thin book, 123 in the big book.
I'll read it from down here. My book is here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzav lanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinkilanu zikaro lema'aseh v'reheshit ki hu yom tehila milikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'chalta v'yatanu kidashta mikomim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon chinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. Thank you, Morris.
Sweet. The good stuff.
Good grape juice, right?
Yes.
Yum.
It was a good year.
So as the Israelites prepare to enter the promised land, creating an ideal society is a central motif of our Torah portion this week. Parshat Re'eh in the book of Deuteronomy. As Rabbi Rachel Sabbath Beit Halachmi explains, for the Deuteronomist, who you are is defined by what you do. If you're God's sacred people, you observe particular ways of being in the world. If you wanted to create an ethical society, you take care of the needy. While in the vision of the Deuteronomist, the ideal society will have no needy, the authors also know that any human society will always have those who are in need. And thus we need to be very clear, as the commentator Rashi emphasizes, that we must open our hands and our hearts and give whatever is needed. All this, of course, is based on who we are as well. Bear in mind that you were slaves in Egypt, so you should have sympathy for those who are less fortunate. And another circle song, Begin Again, by Ilana Arian.
Amen. 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 We begin again. We begin in hope. We begin with believing. Begin with our hearts staying open to all of the gifts we're receiving. We begin in faith.
Amen.
We begin with returning.
Amen.
We begin with our minds broken open to lessons we'll never stop learning. We begin again.
Amen. 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 We begin again.
We begin in strength.
Amen.
We begin seeking justice.
Amen.
We begin with our arms stretching open to welcome the weary among us. Begin again. Begin again. May the sweetness of this new year never end. Begin again. Begin again. May we never take for granted where begin again.
Amen. 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 We begin again.
We begin in truth.
Amen.
We begin with forgiveness.
Amen.
We begin with our eyes focused open to notice the sacred within us. Begin again. Begin again. May the sweetness of this new year never end. Begin again. Begin again. May we never take for granted where we've been. We begin again.
Amen. 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 We begin again.
And of course, beginning again is very appropriate for this time of year as we are now in the month of Elul, preceding Rosh Hashanah. Our Torah portion includes the institution of Shemitah, whereby debts are forgiven every 7 years. As Rabbi Amy Scheinerman explains, this reflects Torah's abiding ethical concern for those who have fallen on hard times and into debt. Given the vagaries of weather in the land of Israel, drought and famine are ever-present threats. Farmers might need to borrow money to tide them over until their situation is improving. But it is often the case that one who is insolvent, rather than digging themselves out of the hole, falls further and further into debt and becomes part of an underclass living in penury. Torah, recognizing the situation, declares that every 7th year, there is to be a remission of the debts of the poor. Those whose fortunes have plummeted have the opportunity to begin again. The Chatzi Kaddish is page 263 and 145.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, להללם עלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
And we rise for the Baruch Hu on the next page.
La
Please be seated. This is by Rachel Berenbaum, Rabbi, and it's on this week's Torah portion called Not Empty-Handed. The gift of silence, the gift of transforming stars into constellations, the gift of recorded voices, the gift of bare feet dangling over the pier, the gift of blurred vision doubling the moon, the gift of the name you gave me and the one I chose, the gift of the right tool for the job, the gift of a gate opening, and the wide open possibility on the unknown other side. Ahavat Olam is page 266 and 148.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokteinu, V'kumeinu nasiach behukecha, V'nizmak medivrei Toratecha, U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Yihem hayenu, V'orech yameinu, U'bahem negei yomam v'layla, Yogei yomam v'layla. Ahavat ha'tasir, Yimeinu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael, Ohev amo Yisrael.
We rise for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Le'olam va'ed.
seated. And Carol Lee, would you lead us in the Ve'ahavta? I will have to lower the microphone for you, right? They can't hear you on Zoom if you're not talking into the mic. Come to the microphone. Yeah, it's because of Zoom.
Okay, everybody in this wonderful circle, please join me. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lebavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'vlechtecha b'derech u'b'shochvecha u'b'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Laman diskaru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim lelohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Thank you, Carol Lee.
Oh, that's my pleasure. Very good, everybody.
We're ready for a bar and bat mitzvah, right? So in our Torah portion, and I'll talk about this later, we are given the choice between blessing and curse. The verse is, see this day I set before you blessing and curse. So Ruth Bryn writes this piece called The Choice. Are we free as the birds? Yes, and more free. For birds fly by the charts of instinct and make no choice in the pattern of their existence. Are we free as the angels? Yes, and more free. For angels, if they exist, live beyond evil and face no agonizing choice. Sometimes we seem like little children, round-eyed before a holiday table, permitted for once to reach for the sweetest cake. But we are neither children nor winged creatures. We are human beings. Freedom to choose is our definition, and ability to choose well is our portion of divinity. Gratefully, we thank you, who are the source of our freedom. Earnestly, we pray to you when we pace the dark corridors of decision. Let us make each choice with wisdom. Let us choose blessing and peace. The Michamocha, the choice to be liberated, is page 270 and 152.
Mi kamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot oseh pele, nora tehilot oseh pele, yalai, lai, 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 bim bam, yalai, lai, 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 bim bam, yalai, lai, 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 bim bam, yalai, lai, 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 bim bam, ma'alef nutecha ra'u banecha, bokeh hayam lifnei Moshe, ve'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai lo Belam Baed, Yalai, la, 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 Yalai, la, bim bam, Yalai, la, 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 Yalai, la, bim bam, Yalai, la, 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 Yalai, la, bim bam, Yalai, la, 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 Yalai, la, bim bam. Mi kamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot osei pele, Torah tehilot osei pele, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la bim bam, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la bim bam, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la bim bam, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la bim bam.
That was nice and lively. Anybody remember the days when I used to make you redo it because it wasn't lively enough? It's like, we're so glad we're free. Anyhow, I'm glad you're happy tonight. So in our Torah portion for this week, we're told to ignore prophets who perform miracles. According to Zohar Atkins, it suggests that faith cannot be attained, should not be attained on the basis of extraordinary occurrences, and that the Jewish project at root is about loving God, but critically not about following holy men and gurus. That's why we don't know where Moses is buried. The prophet is needed to organize the people, but the prophet's powers should never become an object of adoration or marvel. They are a means to an end which might just as well be attained without those circumstantial talents. I believe there's a deeper meaning and message in the law. The Torah wants us to be radically egalitarian in our perception and treatment of one another. This means that despite differences in talent and ability, we are to enjoy, but not to idolize those talents and abilities. We are not to make gods out of the people who hold them, and to use those talents as a pretext for creating a caste system in which the prophetic overclass rule permanently over the spiritually illiterate. I cannot be an idol. Not that you were going in that direction. Prophecy is for everyone, even if sociologically some are prophets and most are not. The point of prophecy should never be its flashiness or spectacle. The point should be the empowerment of the people. The Shamru, which I forgot to write down the page number because I didn't know. It's page, I think, 272 or something like that, but I will find it quickly. 272 in the big fat book, 154 in the little book. Thank you.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 273 and 155.
Adonai sefatai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei HaKol, ve'Zocher Chazdei Avot ve'Imahot, U'mevii Gula livnei v'neihem leman shemo be'ahava. Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Machayeh hakol atah Rav lechoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot umidom elach. Melech meimit u'mechayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah l'chachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kedoshim b'chol yom b'chalalu ha'sela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We continue silently to page 282. Ose Shalom is on page 285.
Say shalom, shalom bimrumav. Booyah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael bimru amen. Booyah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shalom, shalom, bimromav. Booyah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael b'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael
Young woman is so talented. Piano, flute, voice. Everyone's thinking it, so I'm just saying it out loud. We take a moment now to think of those in need of healing, whether of body, of mind, or of spirit. We think of congregants and friends and family of congregants: Jonathan Davidson, Ben Henderson, Irv Richards, Kara Gilman, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Gloria Mangus, Leslie Ferris, Pamela Mangus, Johnny Sickhat, Larry Miller, Martha Miller, Judy Richmond, Fernando Guerrero, Alan Edelman, Cordell Thomas, Ocean Joy Pace. Would anyone like to add a name in this room? Let me look in the chat. Robin Kurland, Amy Morton, Stephanie Soloway, Portia Becker, Maylee Agabao, Eleanor Gailey. Join us in the prayer for healing, the Misha Berach. And this one happens to be on the inside cover of your prayer books.
Misha Berach Avoteinu, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Misha Berach Avoteinu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, 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 and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with the vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Misha Berach Avoteinu, be'achimotenu. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. And bless us as well. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. Hear our prayer. And bless us as well.
So I think many of you know that I spent some time with the Institute for Jewish Spirituality a number of years ago. Didn't take really well, but I tried to get that side of me a little more developed. Bless you, bless you. You okay? So since then, which has been, I think, 8 years, I've been studying every week with a partner various Hasidic texts. And a lot of times these texts are really very esoteric, as you might imagine. They're based on, Zohar and that kind of thing. But this week, I thought this was just the most beautiful teaching, so I wanted to share it with you. It's based on the Sfat Emet, who is a Hasidic rabbi, and it's basically analyzed and prepared by Rabbi Dr. Aaron Lieb Smokler. And no offense, but the ones that have been prepared by the two women are much more accessible than the ones that were prepared by the men. I don't know why. They're just less intellectual. So I'm gonna go through it and hopefully it won't be too difficult to understand. So in this week's Torah portion, as I've said, and this is almost like an expansion of what Ruth Bryn wrote in her poem about this. So see this day, Hayom, I set before you blessing and curse. The meaning of this, and this is our Sfat Emet, our Hasidic master, the meaning of this is that it is in the hands of humanity to choose good or bad, right? We have the choice of picking blessing or curse. My master, my grandfather, my teacher of blessed memory said that it is for this reason that we say in morning blessings, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who gave the heart understanding to distinguish between day and night. It seems that the meaning of this day, Hayom, is that there is in every day choice anew. So sometimes when we read this passage and it says, I give you blessing and curse this day, it sounds like it's just for today. But the way he's reading is that it's every day. At every moment, we have the possibility of making these choices. After a person sins, the power to choose is fleeting. So, Avera, Goreret Avera. You may remember that song that we sing sometimes in family services. Once you do a sin, it's easier to do the next one. But you always have the chance to turn around, except if you're Pharaoh, in which case, each time you have a hard heart, it gets so hard that eventually you can't turn back. But hopefully most of us are not in that situation. In one of the midrashes, it says the wicked are controlled by their hearts. Nevertheless, the Holy Blessed One renews the power of creation every single day and gives choice anew to every person every day to choose goodness again. So that is the short teaching of the Sfat Emet. And then Dr. Smokler continues. So she looks at the fact that this is what the Sfat Emet picks up on. See, I, Anochi, God, set before you this day, Hayom, blessing and curse. Blessing if you obey the commandments of your God that I enjoin upon you this day, and curse if you do not obey the commandments of your God, but turn away from the path that I enjoin upon you this day, and follow other gods whom you have not experienced. Of course, following other gods means idolizing, prophets, rabbis, whatever. Just kidding. So this day, God says, I'm offering you something new. Take note, Re'eh, see, that's the name of the Torah portion. Behold with your own eyes, before you lies the possibility of blessing or curse, the path toward God or the path away from God. And this really kind of has a double meaning. It's not just I might choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing. I can also look at what's going on in my life as a blessing or a curse. These are choices that we make. There will be consequences for your choices, so decide wisely which direction you will take. Important as this message is, she says it's hardly new. The end of last week's Torah portion is but one example of many that exhorts the nation to choose good. That is, actions in accordance with the divine in order to receive good. If you remember from last week, we talked about that paragraph that's in the Shema that we've taken out in the Reform movement, because it says, if you obey, all will be good. Otherwise, you're going to starve to death. So that's, one of those things, choosing to listen to God. But what is the blessing and what is the curse introduced here? So this is a new insight. Rashi, our favorite man from the 11th century France, characteristically interprets this verse locally. So what he sees is, in the next Torah portion, there are going to be blessings and curses shouted out from two mountains, Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. So that's what he's seeing. It's announcing that that's going to happen. Not all that interesting as an analysis. The Sefat Emet, on the other hand, anchors his interpretation on the thrice repeated word hayom, this day, right? We just read that. The charge of Ra'eh, see, is to reckon with our radical freedom. Again, that's something that was mentioned in some of the poetry that I read. We are not predetermined creatures. We are not fated to be stuck in our ways. And I think this is an important message for the high holidays, that no matter how stuck you might have been in your ways up until now, you can unstick. And that's also the message of the Exodus. You can be a slave for 400 years and suddenly one day go, wait a minute, no, right? You can change your circumstances. Every single day, we have the opportunity to choose who we want to be and how we want to be. We can choose good or we can choose evil. We can choose to progress or to regress. We can consciously determine our paths in the world today and the next day and the next. Hayom, 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 every day. The Rebbe suggests that certain choices themselves limit our freedoms, but only temporarily. So after a person sins, the power to choose is fleeting. But we can elect paths that do not serve us, that might actually constrain our growth and openness to the world. And when we do so, we might feel ourselves to be powerless over the consequences. But the gift of Hayom is a reminder that there's always a new day. Remember that sticker or that button that said today is the first day of the rest of your life? It's kind of that idea. Now, there's more to it than just that. So God says Anochi, which means I. So other Hasidic thinkers look at that word, Re'eh Anochi, to flesh out something else. So there's one guy named the Ma'or Vashemesh who says that the I at stake here is one's own sense of self. Even though it's God speaking, Midrash has no problem taking something and making someone else say it or changing the meaning, right? Or taking it out of context. So the phrase, see, I, Anochi, set before you this day blessing and curse means be aware. Your own Anochiyut, word that's taken from Anochi, meaning selfhood, can be for you a blessing or curse, right? You can let your ego get in the way, and then you've chosen curse rather than blessing. See, I, Anochi, set before you a blessing and a curse. Anochi, I, the importance of a person in her own eyes can be both a blessing and a curse. The verse indicates that Anochi stands between God and ourselves. There's a passage where Jacob, you may remember, escapes because his brother wants to kill him. Esau wants to kill him for stealing the blessing of the firstborn. And he spends the night out in the wilderness with a rock under his head. And he wakes up and he says, Anochi lo yadati. I did not know that God was in this place, right? And there's a doubling of the I. Anochi, and then yadati, the T is also I. So why is there two of these I's in there? And Rabbi Larry Kushner says one of them is the ego. The ego gets in the way. When the ego is in the way, you can't let God in because you're defended. And the ego is not a bad thing, but it's harder to let God in when you're defended and you're, on the lookout for something. So when a person thinks of herself as a somebody, this can be a mask that separates between her and the Holy Blessed One. If I'm all pumped up with myself, I have no room for God. Sometimes the evil inclination tells a person, how can you dare to pray before the Holy Blessed One when you are a worm and not a person? So this is the other end of the spectrum. When you think of yourself in too low a way, like I'm just a little worm, I have no right to even pray to God, that's not good either. You got to find a balance. Then she must fortify her heart to enter the palace of the king. Then anochi, selfhood or ego, is for a blessing. So when you get the right balance, you are a blessing as well. The injunction to see, re'eh, is an invitation to look in the mirror, to behold with honesty and integrity how one appraises oneself, how one's ego gets in the way of spiritual growth, and how it enables it. The self is a tool and an impediment, an enabler of open connection and a prod toward haughty isolation. A bracha v'kala, a blessing and a curse all at once. So keep it before your eyes, be vigilant about it, and keep it in check. There's more, but I think I'll stop there. I think those are some really beautiful lessons, especially for this time of year. And here's some questions to think about during the week. The Sefat Emet invites us to choose each day anew. Does this make you feel powerful, overwhelmed, anxious, excited, or something else? Having freedom is a responsibility. Describe an experience of starting over, of choosing to start over. And describe an experience of inertia or paralysis when choosing did not feel like an option available to you. And as you know, probably from reading Viktor Frankl, we always have a choice, at least in terms of our attitude towards what's going on with us. Not always easy to follow, but it is there. There is that freedom. So thank you, Dr. Smuckler. I have a few announcements. We're going to continue Friday night services at 7 p.m. forever. Except for the high holidays, we're going to keep it at 7:30. And then, of course, first Friday of the month, family service will be at 6:30 because the little kiddies need to get to bed. This coming Thursday, some of you have bought tickets. There are more available. There is a symphony premiering in this city, in Riverside at the Fox Theater. It's a symphony written by Steve Rothstein, and it is based on high holiday melodies and themes. It's on September 18th at the Fox at 4 o'clock. Tickets are available. Next Thursday evening at 7, Steve Rothstein is going to present a session to explain how he worked with all these themes and how he developed the symphony. So it should be really interesting. And if you can't make it, we record everything. Everything's on our YouTube channel. And if you can't find it, I can help you. Next Friday, this lovely young lady, Olivia Sabar, our bat mitzvah for next weekend, is going to lead Friday night services at 7. And then on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, she will become a bat mitzvah and lead that service as well. So we're looking forward to that. Anybody have any other announcements in this room or on Zoom? No. Okay. Glad you're all here. Glad we're in a circle. We are going to continue with the Aleinu, which is on the inside cover. And I was thinking, Judah, would you like to open the ark? And why don't you go up with Olivia and we rise? Can you get through? We're in tight quarters here.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, lated gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kachol hamonam, vanachnu korim umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim veyosed aretz, ומשה יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, כך כתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Thank you, Olivia and Judah. You may close the ark. Good job. Okay, you may all be seated. So in our Torah portion this week, we read that you are children to Adonai your God. You shall not cut yourself. In other words, mutilate your body. Nachmanides, who is a 13th century Spanish rabbi, suggests that despite the natural grief that we feel at the loss of a loved one, Jews should not be so anguished or fearful of death that they mutilate their bodies, because that's what the surrounding Canaanites did. They would cut themselves if somebody died. It's proper to weep and mourn the loss of a loved one, but one must set limits and not despoil one's body as a result. Another interpretation is we should not cut ourselves off by being polarized. No one said the Torah didn't have very deep wisdom for all time, because it speaks to so many things that go on today. Is anyone in Shiva Shloshim, or the first year of mourning, in this room or on? First year Judith Cohen, first year Alina Archibek Ferris, first year Edith Tanizaki, Phil Bush, Stephen Alexander, Terry Sean, first year. First year Myrna Pavelak. And we're observing yard sites this Shabbat. Oh, I'm sorry, first year Patty Podner. The yard sites this Shabbat are Irving Lewin, Joseph Lippo, Sophia Eisendorf, Edward Exler, Morris Wilczek, Lane Thomas Gilbert, Rose Schreiber, Lillian Grokoff, Ida B. Needleman, Herman Pollack, Janet Fishman, Ida Perlmutter, Conrad Yarmoff, Robert E. Campbell, Miriam Fitzhugh, Gertrude Weiss, Helmut Brandt, Harriet Eisenberg, Selma Gordon, Debbie Cherry, Manuel Cruz, Esther Kroll, Byron H. Ramanovsky. Anyone else here observing a yard site? Anybody on Zoom observing a yard site? And of course, we think of those who perished in the Holocaust and have no one to say the mourner's Kaddish for them. Please rise and please join me on page 598 and 294 for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah. Ve'alma divrach yehutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. V'agala u'v'zman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam U'almei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shmei Dekudashah Barichu. La'ela min kol bilchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. Before the closing song, first of all, I want to thank our wonderful musicians tonight, Jory, Morris, and Rena. Thank you to Shaya, who has been running our tech in the back. Can we see you, or is that too complicated? There is a camera that can show you Shaya. Well, he's trying to make it. Oh, there we are. There's Shaya. Thank you, Shaya. We also want to thank Rusty for providing us with security tonight. And Wendy, I don't know if Wendy's still in here, but Wendy's been doing our own eggs every week. And Dean for helping us set up. I also forgot before during announcements that Benjamin Morey has just become a new Jew by choice. And we're very happy to welcome him here. Eventually he will give a little presentation about his journey, which is
Very nice.
and he has a very interesting story. So yeah, we'll hear it soon. And we're closing with Or Zarua, which actually is a high holiday song. So it means light will shine for the righteous.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's page 647 and
Oh, yeah, it's actually in there.
343.
Light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright of heart.
647 and 343.
Or Zarua la Sadiku Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua la Sadiku Yishrei Lev Simcha. Simchu tzadikim ba'Adonai, ba'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho, lezecher kodsho. Or Zarua la Sadik Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua la Sadik Yishrei Lev Simcha. Simchu tzadikim ba'Adonai, ba'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho, lezecher kodsho. Or Zarua la Sadiku Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua la Sadiku Zarua Latzadik Uyishrei Lev Simcha. Ol Zarua Latzadik Uyishrei Lev Simcha.
Well, now we have a challah. And Judah, would you like to bring the challah over here so I can unwrap it and you can hold it for everybody? Yeah, it's under the, you know why it's under there? Because it's the last one to get a blessing and we don't want it to feel bad. So it hides under the cover.
2 covers.
I'm going to undo it and then you can hold it up for everybody, okay? There you go. Hold it up. There we go.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Shabbat Shalom. Please join us for the oneg. Those on Zoom may continue to chat with each other and eat a piece of cake at home. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Sandra, yay. Where is everybody? Hey, Cindy. Randy, hey. Harvey. Regina.
Shabbat Shalom, Christine.
Shabbat Shalom. How are you?
Birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, happy
I'm so glad-
birthday.
I'm glad I made it to 72.
Oh, happy birthday. Wow. And Shabbat
Without the
Shalom.
wonders of modern medicine, I would be dead. It was a wonderful birthday, actually. It was really
That's
fun. Just the right feeling, nobody out of control, you know, it's like just loving and great conversation.
Oh, that's
Lots of
super.
stories. It was really fun. Yeah. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom all.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah. Sandy. Sandy, where are you? Are you gone now?